Hello, my dear student. I'm Mr. Twala from Educators. I will be with you in physics for Form 5. And today we are going to proceed with our discussion about the measurements for the subtopic of the errors. So on this session, my dear student, we are going to see the errors in derived physical quantities. We have so many derived physical quantities, as we have tried to see on the past sessions. We say that this derived physical quantity, the quantity that can be derived from the other quantities. It depends the presence of the fundamental quantities. So today we are going to see some explanation about those how the error can occur in derived quantities. So in many experimental results, the measured values which are always subjected to various error can be propagated when the measured quantities are manipulated. So in many experimental results, for the result that we do, that we perform it either at the school or at anywhere, the measured value which are always subjected, all of those measured value which we obtain, have or contain it is error. All of those measured values involve some mistakes that gives us the errors. So this measured quantity are manipulated or are conducted by including the addition. You have to include those additions, multiplications, division, and also the exponents. Kwa ili tuweze kufanya haya maswali, kuweza kufanya zile measured value, we are supposed to include the basic operations. For instance, the multiplications, addition, division, and also the exponents. We'll go and see how this can be applied. Welcome, my dear student, for this session to proceed learning here. So here, as you can see that, error in the physical quantity. The propagation of error in many mathematical computation depends on the formula used to determine the final answer. All of those propagation of errors in many mathematical computations may depend on the formula that is used to determine the answers. You can't obtain the propagation of the error without having the formula. Those formula give us the answer. Kwa tutakuwa tunatumia zile formula kwa aim moja tu ya kuweza kupata the correct answer. So in this part, the error in sum, difference, product, and the exponent will be discussed. So here on this session, we are going to discuss about the error in sum, the sum of the error, the difference of the error, the product of the error, and the exponent of the errors. We try to see all of those. So as you can see here, those are sum, different, product, and exponent. Sometimes we term it as the propagation of the error. So, my dear student, let us start with Roman A, the term error in sum. How can we get the error in sum? If we have several errors. How can we sum it? Welcome for this session so that you can gain more knowledge. So the sum of error. Suppose you are given the equation. Suppose you have the equation, and that equation can be represented. Our equation is x is equal to a plus b. Now imagine we have our equation, and the equation, our equation say that x is equal to a plus b. As you know that we have these two variables, and we combine these two variables by applying the sum, addition. So we are supposed to let this be the absolute error in the measurement of A. Change of A means the absolute error in the measurement of A. During taking the value of A, during measuring the value of A, we obtain the errors in A, which can be represented by the change of error A, the absolute value of or absolute error of A. And also we will assume that this change of B be the absolute error that can be obtained during the measurements of B. Tunapokuwa tunachukua values za B, ile error ya B ndio iliweza kuhappen. Huwezi ukapata error ya B kwenye A. No. It is very very difficult. Na hiyo haipo kabisa. This change of B is obtained from the measurement of B, as you can see here. But this change of X, the absolute value of X, this we say that this is the relative error. The relative be the absolute in the value of X, absolute error in the value of X. Kwa huyu hapa change of A ana represent absolute error in A, lakini huyu change of B represent the absolute error in B, lakini huyu change of X ni absolute error in X, my dear student. When A and B are added such that if we take those values A and B and sum it, for the error will become as X plus or minus the absolute value of X is equals to the A plus or minus absolute value of A plus B plus or minus the absolute value of B. Now this will return as the first questions. Kwa tunachotakiwa, huyu tunamtafutia error wake ambao tunamwandika in a difference form. Tati atakuwa ni X plus or minus ya absolute value ya X ni sawasawa na B na A plus or minus it is absolute value plus B plus or minus it is absolute value. So after expanding equation 1, after expanding this equation 1, now 4 possible values of this one will happen. Kwa baada ya kuexpand tutategemea kabisa kwamba 4 possible values zitaweza kuhappen. Kwa tutapata absolute wa A plus absolute wa B. Pia tutapata absolute wa A minus absolute wa B. And finally we will get also negative absolute ya A plus absolute of B. And also the negative absolute of A minus the absolute of B. This is how we can get 4 possible values during the summation. How this happen? Hizi zilizotokea it means kwamba we combined these errors. Kwa tumechukua plus or minus wa A tukamcombine na plus or minus wa B. Kwa ukishazi combine pale ndio utakuja hizi kupata hizi 4 equations. Kwa sababu utakuwa unatoa kwa matendo. Utatoa na positive hii ya kwanza ile pale kwa positive. Utatoa kwa negative ile atakuwa ni positive. Utarudi kwenye positive atarudi kwenye negative. Negative na negative. This is how you can explain about the summation. Kwa ukikutana maswali kama haya, tunategemea kabisa kwamba namna ya kuyafanya utatakiwa ufanye hivyo. Kwa kila value ulionayo kwenye equation, kwenye hizo variable zako, you have to find its own value. It is absolute error. So the maximum possible absolute error will be a change of x, or the absolute of x must be equal to absolute of a plus the absolute of b. Kwa hapo ndo kitakuja kupatikana ile ambayo itakupatia maximum. Tuassume kwamba hii the absolute of a labda ni 4, absolute of b ni 3. Ukijumlisha pale ile maximum kabisa itakuwa ni 4, kwa sababu hapo itakuwa ni 3. Hapa itakuwa ni -1. Hapa itakuwa ni -7. Kwa maximum sana sana itakuwa ni absolute of a plus the absolute of b. So therefore the maximum absolute error in the sum of the two quantity equals to the sum of the absolute error in the individual quantities. Kwa ile absolute error ya zile ile maximum ya absolute error in the sum of two quantities lazima ifanane na sum ya zile absolute error in the individual quantities. Suppose here we have our example, my dear student. We have our example. And our example say that suppose A equals to 20.5 plus or minus 0.5 bracket meter. Suppose A is equal to 20.5 plus or minus 0.5 centimeter, and B equals to 10.0 plus or minus 0.2 bracket centimeter. Calculate the maximum possible error of A plus B. Now we are supposed to go and find the absolute error, the maximum possible errors of A plus B. How can we get it, my dear student? First of all, we are supposed to identify that this first number here represent as the true value, lakini inayofuata baada ya plus or minus hii ina represent the absolute value. Even here for B, this represent the true value of B, but the second represent the absolute value of B. Now after identifying it, you have to let that imagine that the x represent B equals to A plus B. X is equal to A plus B. Now after there, we have to in order to get the actual value of x, tutasubstitute hizi value. Ukisha substitute hizi value utapata kabisa kwamba the actual value of x is equal to 30.5 centimeter. But the relative, the absolute value of x, the maximum absolute error of x will be equals to the absolute value of A. We add by the absolute value of B. But we have the absolute value of A, which is equal to 0.5. Tulipewa hapa absolute value ya A ni 0.5, and also the absolute value of B equals to 0.2. Now we can substitute. After substituting, my dear student, we'll get the absolute value of x equals to plus or minus 0.7 centimeter. Equals to 0.7 centimeter. This will be the absolute value of x. So I can conclude by saying that the maximum possible error in x is equal to plus or minus 0.7 centimeter. Now, let us conclude by saying that therefore the value of x must range between the 29.8 centimeter to 31.2 centimeter. How this occur? Kwa nini tumesema ile ni true value, kwamba ile nani itarange hivyo ile the values? How we get this? Amepataje hizi range? He obtained this, my dear student, by taking the 0.7 we add by 30.5. Kwa ukichukua ili kuweza kuangalia ile error pale, tutachukua hii 30 kuweza kuangalia the error, absolute error. Tutachukua huyu 30.5 cm, tutamtoa, lazima tumweze kumtoa na 0.7 cm, na baada hapo tutakuja tutamjumlisha na 0.7 cm. Ndio hizi hapa value utaziona zitaweza kuapia. Kwa ile a value of x will range between these two values. So after there, let us go and see error in a difference. The errors in a difference. As I told you that this is the propagation of errors. So error in difference can be calculated by following the same procedure using the sum. Even here for the difference means subtraction. We'll use similar method that we applied on the sum. Kwa tutatumia njia ile ile tuliyoitumia kwenye sum kuweza kutafuta the difference of the error. How this method, my dear student, can be applied? How can we answer the question of the difference of errors? We are supposed to let x. Imagine we have our equation x is equal to a, the difference of two variables, a minus b. X is equal to a minus b. And this change of a be the absolute error in the measurements of a. This change of a represent the absolute error. This change hapa ta represent absolute of error in a, lakini huyu change wa b ambao tunaenda kumuona ataenda ku represent the change ata represent the absolute value of b, kama tunavyoona hapo, absolute error in measurement of b. During taking the measurement of b, the error that exact, we term it as the change of b. And also this change of x represented as the absolute error in the absolute error be the absolute error in the measurements of x. Because during taking the measurements of x, the error that exact will be represented by this symbol. So then tunachokifanya sasa baada ya hapo, tutakuwa tu introduce plus or minus both side. Kwa we'll take x plus or minus the absolute value of x. Hapa it is wrong, lakini kuna plus or minus equals to bracket the a plus or minus the absolute value of a minus bracket b plus or minus the absolute value of b, as in sum. The four possible value of x will be here. Four possible value of x will be equals to absolute value of x. Now those four possible value ambazo zita exact za x itakuwa ni sawasawa na hizi. We have the absolute value of the absolute error of a plus or minus b. This the absolute plus or minus b. It means the change of a plus this change of b will be the first. And the second will be this one. The third will be this one. The final will be this one, my dear student. Plus or minus. This is not a plus or minus. There is the negative here. Here there is the positive. But once you can see here that the maximum possible error in x must be equal to the absolute of a plus or minus the absolute of b. Therefore, we hence the value of x can range between this one. Kwa ile value of x itarange kati ya hizi variable pamoja paga kwenye zile variable, ndo itaweza kwa range sana sana. So by saying that therefore the maximum absolute error in the sum is equal to the maximum absolute error in the difference. Kwa maximum absolute error iliyopo kwenye summation kule ni sawa na absolute error inayopatikana ni sawa na ile maximum absolute error iliyopo kwenye difference huku. So the task for this session, my dear student, you are supposed to go and explain that how this error in sum are related with the error in difference. And after there, you are supposed to demonstrate the formula that gives four errors for the difference and also for the error in summation. So by saying that this is the end of our session, now I would like to invite you again for another session. I wish you all the best, my dear student. Have a nice moment.